Guys, good morning. Welcome to our Thursday chat. Our discussion Q&A with Vaughan Henkel, our head of research. We're covering two stocks today because of the public holiday last week, and we're going to be specifically talking about an update on Sasol as well as a BTI note. So if you haven't gotten those notes, drop us an email and we'll get that to you. I know I promised that I would also send out the invites to those of you that indicated with your emails to me that you wanted to join the WhatsApp group. I have been hampered by tech to get that going because of a username issue. I'm busy resolving that, and I'll get that going as soon as possible because we have other WhatsApp broadcast groups as well. So I just need to create a username. I'm going to hand over to Vaughan because today we're talking Sasol and BTI. Vaughan, good morning. Thank you. Take it away.
Thanks, Sarel. Morning, everyone. Today we are blessed to have two of my analysts on the call today. So we've got Pierre Muller, who's going to talk about Sasol. He's familiar to most of you, I'm sure, because he's spoken about Sasol a number of times. And then we've got Ross, who it is his first discussion with the team on BTI. So he's the one grinning over there. But we'll start with Pierre, and then we'll go straight into Ross, and then we'll end off with the technicals from Sarel. Go for it, Pierre.
Thanks, Vaughan, and good morning, everyone. So Sasol released their 9-month metrics update. So just a note on that, that's just on the production volumes. And so it's not the in-depth financial statements or anything like that. Looking overall, we've seen some improvements in operations, some areas such as your mining division and Secunda operations, where management seemed a bit more positive. Although other divisions such as the NATREF run rate, they guided a bit lower, and also on the Oryx GTL, there was some incident. And then our recommendation is a buy on Sasol. There's extremely low sentiment at the moment through the valuation multiples that we're seeing. And then also just a reminder again, Sasol is exposed to quite a lot of risks. Then if we look at the main metrics, so starting with the mining division, so there was some safety stoppages that would have decreased volumes there. They also noted specifically the exports of coal fell 24%, so that would be Transnet, and they also cited that some diversion of the coal to the Secunda operations. The external coal purchases, however, increased as they tried to top up on the coal quality there. In the gas division, production was flat but expected to improve with the Secunda operations now online again. So they had the second reformer coming back online at the end of the quarter, and then external sales on the gas was lower due to lower demand. On the fuel side, Secunda operations had lower production due to the planned total East factory shutdown. Also coal quality challenges and unplanned outages, but a 5% improvement if you look at this third quarter to the previous quarter. The NATREF was impacted, however, by a lighter crude slate and lower hydrogen and steam availability, and therefore it in the third quarter compared to the second quarter was 11% lower. Oryx GTL had the delayed startup of air separation unit 2 earlier in the year, and in the third quarter was impacted by diesel tank leak. However, we've seen the third quarter now improve 33% compared to the second quarter. Then moving over to the overall chemicals, apologies on the previous slide. Thanks. Still on the chemicals part of Sasol. So in the Africa region, volumes were lower due to the total East factory shutdown and infrastructure problems with the ports in South Africa and Transnet. The average sales basket price was also lower due to lower polymer and solvent price due to lower demand. However, in looking on a sequential quarterly basis, volumes were up 1% and revenue 2%. Chemicals America had higher volumes due to the ethylene cracker turnaround in the first half of the prior financial year, And then the average sales basket price was lower due to lower feedstock and energy costs. And then lastly, the chemicals Eurasia division. So volumes were lower due to the disposal of their wax business, lower demand, and customer destocking. The average sales basket was higher due to higher energy costs in Europe. The volumes was, however, up 9% from the second quarter, citing the recovery in both Europe and in China. Okay, now we can go to the next slide. Okay, so the management guidance overall stayed mostly the same. You can see in bold there the net ref run rate, however, was guided lower, and management didn't change the outlook on the Secunda operation volumes, but they cited now they expecting it to be to the upper end of their guidance. Okay. On a price performance, so Sasol mostly underperformed except for on a 3-year basis where it outperformed the benchmark. Then on the next slide, we can see the valuation multiple. So just looking at a price to earnings multiple, how this has derated over the years and trading at the lower end. So we have an intrinsic value of 340 Rand currently for Sasol, and I think it's at the moment somewhere 230 Rand. And then on the next slide, you will see this is one of the main points for Sasol when looking at it. You can see if we take what the consensus, so what various analysts are expecting for the next financial year, what the earnings per share would be, and you just times it by 10, how closely the share price used to trade to that calculation. But now there was a disconnect about mid last year where you can see those two diverge, even though the earnings per share was forecasted lower, and you can see both decreasing in that sense, but there's definitely a disconnect in this valuation multiple from that point in time. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thanks.
Thanks, Pierre. Let's do Ross, and then we'll take the questions for both.
Morning, everyone. I'll cover BATs, British American Tobacco. I'll just run you through how we look at the business. Basically, if we look at it from a macro market, macro environment, the consumers are consistently under pressure. I'm sure we've all felt that on our own pockets, but smokers are not going to let that stop them smoking. So although we are seeing decreases in volume, it's quite small. It ranges between 1% and 3% per year over the last 10 years. But BATs increases their prices to offset that volume, and so you'll consistently see pretty flat to slightly up revenue in their combustibles business. And it's from a valuation point of view, it's gone pretty sideways for 5 years, but it distributes quite a nice healthy dividend to around 8%, and its multiples are trading at multi-year lows, almost half of what Philip Morris is. The 2022 results are a bit old now. They should they came out with some updated figures in the AGM, but no actual results. But at the end of 2022, their revenue was up 7.6%. But the key takeaway from this was that their next generation product growth is sitting at 41%. And that's sort of the future of the entire tobacco industry. We've got a buy recommendation, and then what would change our mind is Philip Morris are trying to get into BAT's stomping yard in America, and there's obviously there are some regulatory problems. Just want to go down into a breakdown what next generation products actually are. You can use risk reducing products; they use it interchangeably, but essentially it comes down to 3 categories, and that's your vaping products, which I'm sure we've all seen wherever we go. A tobacco heating product, which is very similar to a cigarette, except it's lit via, or it's using heat instead of an open flame, if you can say. And then the one which has showing huge growth, which was actually very popular in Scandinavia, is the modern oral products. Yep, you can go next slide. won't spend too much time on these, but these are basically tobacco heating products. You would have seen the ECOS at any one of your malls. That's Philip Morris's products, and Glow is British American Tobacco's. You can just go to the next one there. So these are the vape products for these two companies, and this is where the companies are seeing big regulatory issues. In about 2018, Philip Morris bought about a 30% stake in Juul for $13 billion, and now they've been seen to have been problems with advertising to children, so they got fined for that, and they valued the business at 700 million, so down from 13 billion to 700 million. And British American Tobacco are facing similar challenges, not that they've infringed, but just on the marketing of these things. They're just seeing a huge uptake in children, well, teens and high schoolers vaping. Next one. These are essentially your modern orals. So it's like your traditional chewing tobacco, except it comes in a little pouch, like it almost looks like a tea bag, and you put it under the top lip of your gum, and it releases nicotine without the bad side effects of inhaling any smoke. So you still get the nicotine hits, but there's no tobacco in a lot of these products. The next one. So this is basically a nice little graph I saw from Standard Bank, and it just breaks down how these four players are in the markets. And you can see that between Philip Morris and BAT in the cigarette category, you've got about 58% there. And then the other guys, all the smaller players, make up the other 42. But if we see in the next generation product revenue, on the chart on the right there, is that about 30% of Philip Morris's revenue already comes from this, and they want it by 2025. They want to get completely there, whereas British American Tobacco is playing a bit of a catch-up game, and they're at about 15%. But they're seeing tremendous growth in these products. Get that one down. And this is just a breakdown of how BAT's currently stands. As you can see, combustibles and other your cigarettes fairly consistent over the last 5 years. Volumes coming down, prices going up, revenue pretty stagnant. And then if you look on the right-hand side of the chart, this is just the growth rates of these next generation products. 2019 saw a boom of the modern oral as people started switching from cigarettes or vapes into something that doesn't make you pant or wheeze. And the growth rates are sitting anywhere between 40 and 60% over the last call it 3 years, and that's per year. That's not CAGR, not annualized or anything. Next one. Here's just a breakdown of how we're looking at BATs. You can see compared to its competitors, if you look at the EV to EBIT multiples there, it's sitting on a 7.7 times, whereas Philip Morris is at 13.6, and on a PE of 7.5 to Philip Morris's 15.4. This on top of BAT's 8% dividend yield, which makes it look quite attractive. Next one. So this is basically just our valuation of BATs, and we can see if we forecast to the end of 2024, just what we get to a multiple of, and with it currently sitting at about 6.9 times, that's the EV to EBITDA. Even if it just gets to its five-year average of 8.5, you're looking at a 29% upside. And that's it from me.
Thanks very much, Ross. Over to the technicals to Sarel.
Okay, great. I'm not going to spend much time here. The technicals seem to confirm what the analysts have said in that it looks fairly cheap. We're currently looking at British American Tobacco, and for the last year, it's been a sideways story, oscillating up and down between support and a resistance level. We're currently at a support level. On the right-hand side, you'll see the red trend line showing that we have got a slight uptrend, and we currently at that support. I guess if it breaks that support, it's going to go down to the lower red line. That support's around 635, but then probably oscillate up to around 730 again, which is the blue line at the top. The MACD is really just above naught, so not really indicating that it's overly cheap, but certainly this price just oscillating between two levels. If we jump to Sasol, the next one, you'll see that Sasol is at a support again. That support level being around the current levels of 228, maybe slightly lower to around 225. The MACD certainly shows it's cheap, but yeah, it is still in an overall downtrend like the blue line indicates. Obviously, I think what happened in 2020 through COVID and that when Sasol dipped down to $30 and then ran up, I think it was a little bit overdone, but with Vaughan and them's valuation of 340 Rand, I don't think that's far-fetched, and I really think this company is undervalued. Ross, you touched on the dividend yield for BATs, and you commented that it's just over 8%. And we had a discussion earlier in the week, Vaughan, and you can correct me, where we said that Sasol had a dividend yield of just over 9%. So even though the prices are at these levels, if these companies deliver the income that they've promised through their updates, then, I mean, you should hold it just for the dividend. It's really that cheap, but I think it's probably a tale of what's going on around us. Eskom, Transnet influencing definitely Sasol in the same way it has some of the other stocks, and then BTI is compared. If I look at that multiple between BTI and Philip Morris, shucks, it's dirt cheap. Anybody else have anything, any comments, anything to ask? Please fire away. Put your questions in the chat, or just put up your hand, or just activate your microphone, put on your camera, and fire away, guys. We've got 10 minutes left. Let's do it.
I think, Sarel, there's a question in the chat about where's the disconnect? Why is there a disconnect between the earnings mid-22 and the price?
Yes, I see
Pierre,
that.
do you want to start off on that, and I'll add to what you say?
Yeah, so there's two separate things. I think a lot of people are concerned of if you first think out of a ESG type of view, or more about your environment actually aspect out of that. So there's things like greenhouse gas emission tax type of things that will play a role there going forward. So it could be that, but I think it's not necessarily so, because that has been there before, let's say mid last year. I think it's more to do with the operational incidents that we've been seeing, the things that's been going wrong in Sasol, and also the worry about the coal quality deteriorating at their mines. So I think if they can possibly fix those problems, then that should help the multiples to go up again.
Yeah, maybe just add, for the benefit of the listeners, the management guidance around how long it'll take to sort out the coal and what they're doing.
So they're basically looking at how to, throughout the process, improve it. So some of the more short-term solutions, and so they're buying external. So so that would be a premium coal quality. So you're paying a little bit more, so your margin would get a bit lower. But they're also improving stockpile. So as they need to get a certain quality of coal, they need to blend it. So they're just managing those stockpiles to help with that blending, and then also throughout the process, they looking at ways to make the cut times faster, also improve the quality going throughout the mining. So they're looking at various ways just to overall improve on that coal quality.
Thanks, Pierre. I see Rajesh says from the MACD, what indicates that the share price is cheap. So Vaughan, if you jump back to that Sasol technical, you'll see that the MACD is currently below the 0 line, so that indicates that it's slightly oversold. So it's not necessarily telling you it's cheap. I'm basing my take on the fact that it's sitting at a support level, Rajesh, more than just looking at the MACD that's below the 0 line, but that certainly indicates an oversold position. If you go back up to BTI quickly, let's see where that MACD is. I think it's just above the 0 line. And it's indicated in the fact that it's sitting in a slightly upward trend as well. We don't have time to explain the MACD now, but I'm happy to spend some time and talk to you, Rajesh, if you need explanation of what the MACD does. I'm going to run to the next question, which is, what is the current status of the Sasol gas line from Mozambique? A question from Ross.
Yeah, so on the gas line, it's actually been going there ahead of plan, and then also with the safety performance and everything with that. But the problem with the gas line is actually on the demand side. So when they use it in the other processes, so they're sitting with the gas, but it's not necessarily that they can use it to the extent that they wanted to.
Thank you, Pierre. Let's see. Ross says, thanks. I hope I answered your question, Rajesh. Any further questions? I may comment that we haven't had a question on BTI yet, but it seems like when I drive my car on the highway, I see more and more cars with white piles of smoke coming out the window with the guys vaping. So I don't understand why these tobacco companies are not performing better than they currently are. And it was certainly interesting. Thanks, Ross, for showing us the different products, what they look like, because I've always wondered what these new generation products are. Yeah, not much of a cowboy. I don't know whether I'll be chewing tobacco soon, but definitely the youngsters, I see them vaping like crazy. So I think there's opportunity in that stock, same as what there is in Sasol. Don't see any further. Okay, how much of an effect is the Sasol gas project in Moz? There was also the new gas find in Moz. Dennis? Sorry, Pierre. Dennis asks, how much of an effect do you think the Moz gas project has overall on the Sasol share price?
I think if we look at the just the fuels and overall, so it's a bit blended there in the results, but I would refer to those charts just showing the liquid fuels and the oil. So sorry, it's not in the slide, but in the company update report. So if that's about, you know, let's say 40% of the business or so, and it's blended in there. So I think it's a large portion, but I can't provide you exactly with the, you know, the exact impact it will have going forward. Yeah, so that's just a bit, apologies, a tricky one on my side to forecast that on the prices as well that we're expecting, and the deliverance of the operational side.
Yeah. Any comment from your end, Vaughan?
No, I mean, remember, obviously the reason why you're doing this is that you're hedging yourself against coal prices, so you can actually exchange, because essentially energy is energy, in broad terms. So you're hedging yourself against sort of coal problems in the longer term, which is what they're doing. But it's an input into your chemicals process. And if you have your own gas and it's very close, you have control over the supply, so it does two things. It reduces your cost, but it also de-risks your business. So it's not really a direct one-for-one. We worry about the P&L exactly. It's a broader context.
Thanks, Vaughan. Neil says, what's the risk of regulation for BTI regarding the new generation products? Australia recently banned the use of vaping products due to the large number of school children using them.
Yeah, so currently there's a pending marketing denial order against their Vuse menthol vapes. This has been going on for 5 years, and management's comments that they don't see it going away anytime soon, and the FDA is really slow at taking actioning on these. So they're actually not too stressed. All the vaping products, it's not actually the issue. The issue with it is the flavoring of them. They're just too appealing. You've got, you know, mangoes and cherries and raspberry flavors that are too appealing to kids. But so far, there's a lot of other vaping companies that aren't seeing any other problems. So I think the FDA is just going after the big boys. But it doesn't look like anything's going to come of it. And as I said, that's not to ban the product, that's just to ban the marketing of the product. So for the last 3 years, we've seen vaping take off. FDA is slow to react, but I don't think that America is going to ban the product. Australia, yeah, I think the less I say about Australia, the better. Bit of a nanny state, so I think I don't think it's under any significant threats other than threats of competition. But from a regulatory point of view, it's just going to play out over many years.
Yeah, thanks, Ross. I'm not too sure either about the marketing and the flavors and stuff. I mean, there's no billboard that tells me that Fanta makes me fat. And they also have a couple of flavors. Yes, Pierre, I see you got your hand up.
Yes, I was just looking a bit at the scanning through the half-year results of Sasol, just to get back to Dennis' question on the gas. So just to put in perspective a bit there, so the gas earnings before interest and tax was 3.5 billion out of a 24 billion. So it's a bit of a smaller division, part of the bigger slice of the oil. So getting back to a share price performance based on that, it should improve, but it's not the material most of the entire business.
Yeah, thanks for checking that for us. I'm sure that answers Dennis's question. I see Nolan made a comment here. He says, many thanks. I enjoy and appreciate these sessions, useful insights. I see there's a new message that just popped up. Vessel says, what's the effect of illegal tobacco trade worldwide on companies like BTI? I suppose it's quite an influence. Yeah.
Ross.
Yeah. So the majority of their revenue from from cigarettes comes out of the US, where they don't currently have a big illicit trade problem. They did mention that they had a big problem after COVID with illicit cigarettes taking up or damaging their businesses, because these things obviously sell at huge discounts and then people buy the illegal ones. And as a result, off the top of my head, I can't remember, but they had to suspend some operations and a lot of people lost their jobs. But in the broader scheme of things, South Africa is a very small contributor to their revenue. So with all of their revenue coming out of America, I don't think it's an issue.
So just to add to what Ross said, I mean, there's an estimation that between 50% and 80% of all cigarettes sold in South Africa are illegal. Simply because if you look at the selling prices in a lot of informal areas, it's about $20 a pack, and the taxes off the top of my head, I think, is about $22. So we've got a massive problem here, but as Ross says, it doesn't really move the needle for the company globally.
Great. Thanks, Vaughan. Thanks, Ross. Guys, I've got another poll for us quickly. I see we're running out of time. We had some polls throughout our discussions on Thursdays, and earlier in the year, we asked you which stocks you would pick for the year, and Sasol came out tops with 22% of people saying that they would own Sasol, and 17% said Shoprite and MTN. On the back of that, you've mentioned in previous polls that 89% of you said that the gap between the actual share price and the intrinsic value is definitely something that has a great influence on your purchase decision. And last time we chatted, we spoke about 70% of us feeling that the market is building some sort of a base for a rally. So here we've got two stocks that are looking dirt cheap if I'm looking at the valuations. We are feeling that the market is building sort of a base. One of the stocks you said you definitely own, but I want to know from you is, do you currently own Sasol, BTI, or either? I'm going to launch the poll, and it'll be interesting to see. I see we've got quite a couple of people in the room today, so fire away and let's see who owns what. There we go. We've got 10 responses so far, with 62% saying they own Sasol. Eighteen responses, 65% Sasol, 26% BTI. So it looks like most people own Sasol, yes, and we'd probably be looking at the share price closely to see whether it's time to add some more to the position. Not that many people, 26% of people responded to say that they own BTI, so definitely worth a look at, and maybe to include some in your portfolios. Guys, thank you very much. I see we're out of time. It's 12 o'clock. Thanks for your time, Ross, Vaughan, Pierre. Insightful as always. Thank you to everybody who's joined us. We look forward to the next discussion. And I think, Vaughan, if I'm correct, next week we're going to be talking redefine, eh?
Yes, it's redefine, and then we go back to the miners.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you very much for attending. Have a fantastic Thursday, everybody.
Thanks, cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you.